Hi, good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
See, we've got a couple, there's only 12 of us right now. It's 9:30. I will go ahead and get started. As folks figuratively walk in. If they're a little late, that's okay. We'll go ahead and just jump right in. I anticipate we'll have a slightly lighter meeting today. We only have 4 agenda topics. They're all overwhelmingly positive and non-controversial, so we should move pretty quickly through the agenda. That said, let me go ahead and just confirm, can everybody see my screen, the PAS Technical Group PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for the thumbs up. All right. Becky, I see that you're signed in here. Did you want to go ahead and call the meeting?
Sure. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is approve the minutes from our March 18th meeting. I included those with the email that had the agenda with it. So hopefully everybody get a chance to take a look. Does anybody have any changes, additions, corrections? If not, we could have a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes. This is John from Wilmette.
And do we have a second?
I second the motion. It's Sally Baylander from Glenview.
Okay, so motion passes, the minutes are approved, which means we move on to our introduction of our new officers for the 21-22 fiscal year.
Okay, great.
So I don't know if they're all here. I can't see.
Everybody is here except Liz. Liz is away for this meeting, but starting at our next one, she'll be our chair. So for next fiscal year, we have Liz McLean acting as chair from Glencoe. We have Meg Golem. Meg, if I butcher your name, you need to correct me. Is it Meg Golombuski?
Golombeski, very close.
Golombeski. Okay, all right. And then we have Jason Katzian as our secretary. And then Jason, did I get that last name right?
You did, Jason Katzian.
Okay, perfect. All right, so those will be the 3 friendly faces you see running our meetings next year. The other thing I'll touch on as we're kind of getting into meetings for next year, you'll find our meeting dates posted to the CCS calendar, as well as posted to the L2 calendar. The big thing to take away are the 4 meeting dates here. But the other piece is that CCS has decided to keep meetings virtual through the end of 2021. At that time, we'll go ahead and see what the feeling is among this group, whether we want to keep these online or if we want to return to in-person meetings. But for now, you can expect September and December to be held on Zoom. I think for the most part, the feedback we've had is that people like the meetings that are online because it's a little easier to get away from a reference desk for half hour, an hour to attend a meeting than it sometimes is to drive the hour, attend the meeting, and the hour back to your library. But if you have any feedback about what your preference would be, I'd love to hear it when we get to open discussion. Okay. The other thing I want to mention too is that the PAS focus for next year will shift slightly. One of the things I'm very excited for this group to be a part of is QA testing for the Vega partnership program. So something you may have seen in our newsletter is that we've got 7 libraries participating in a partnership with Innovative, where they will be trying out the new Vega catalog with their patrons to test that out and see how it works. Where this group will come in handy is with QA testing. And what that means is quality assurance. So we'll be making sure the product functions as it needs to. So we'll have a unique opportunity to work through the catalog and make sure it works the way we expect it to for things like placing holds and searching. So I'm very excited for this group to be a part of that. And then in next year, I'd also like to see us do more continuing education topics on things this group might be interested in. So it's not always just me giving you an update on what's happening at CCS. I love to do that, but I think it would be nice to hear from somebody who isn't me. Okay. I will go ahead and move into CCS updates then. So both updates I have to present to you today have to do with subject headings. For a long time, illegal aliens has been the subject heading that has been used when we talk about people coming to the United States from another country. And there's been a lot of controversy on whether that is politically correct, if it's what we should be using, and what a more appropriate term might be. So SCRAP recently passed a motion to recommend to replace illegal aliens as the subject heading with those that are recommended by CCS and ALA's Subject Analysis Committee Working Group. So what does that look like and how will it affect you? So what this means is that existing authority records in Polaris were updated with this new term. So every week when we get new records for new items that have been cataloged or brought into the database, we check them to make sure that we're using the new terms. I'll share those terms with you in a moment. The other piece is that were the Library of Congress ever to update their own subject headings with the terms that we're now calling acceptable, their terms could easily be added to the catalog without deleting the work we've done to go in and update our own subject headings. The way this will affect you working at the reference desk is new search terms will be used for completing subject searches. So for example, on the left side, you see what the current Library of Congress subject headings are, and then on the right, you'll see what the recommended terms will be that are used going forward. So instead of aliens, we've used non-citizens. Instead of illegal aliens, it becomes undocumented immigrants. Alien detention centers become immigrant detention centers. You can sort of read through this list here, but this will mostly affect subject searches that you would do. So for example, were you to launch the find tool a month ago and type illegal aliens in a subject search, you would have seen books cataloged with illegal aliens come up and populate that search. Now, you would use the term undocumented immigrants for your subject search, and you get the 551 titles that match that subject heading. So we're just shifting the language from what you see before to what you see now. And the idea is that this language better represents this group of people. Instead of calling people illegal aliens, we're calling them immigrants. Are there any questions about changing these terms, how it will affect searching, or how the decision was made?
Hey, this is John from WillMat. I just have kind of a dumb question, and apologies. Will you be sharing this deck? Because there's a lot of great information in it, and I just want to be able to pass it on to my library.
Yes, I will absolutely be sharing this deck. When we send out the minutes, I'll be sure to include this deck alongside with the minutes. I think probably the most important thing will be the old subject headings alongside with what the new ones are. So yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. Okay, if you are interested in more information about how the decision was made, the SCRAP advisory group has a more like a 20-minute to 30-minute discussion on like how the decision was made. And I think interestingly, they also discuss how the decision passed from SCRAP through the executive committee. So if you're interested in like how the decision was made and how it will more closely affect the way that we catalog materials, I've linked both of those meetings here. But I think for this group, the important thing to know is just what those new search terms are, so you can use them efficiently at the reference desk. Okay, so kind of along the same lines of additional search terms, the SCRAP group will be incorporating what's called a Homosaurus. So what Homosaurus is it is an online thesaurus that lists additional terms that folks in the LGBTQ community would use to describe either themselves, genres, or works. So let me give you a little bit more information about that. Okay, so what is Homosaurus? So as I mentioned a moment ago, it is a thesaurus, but it's an international data vocabulary for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer terms. So what this vocabulary is intended to do is function as a companion to subject headings that already exist inside of the Library of Congress subject headings, and it's maintained by the Digital Transgender Archive. Now, why is CCS or why are other libraries using Homosaurus? So gender and sexuality terms have evolved significantly over the last 20 years, often much faster then Library of Congress subject headings can be updated to match the evolution of society. So we want to add more inclusive subject headings to create a supportive environment that educates the public on proper terms to use. We're also adding terms that will allow items to be more discoverable that previously might have been hidden. Okay, so as an example of this, we'll see something like aromantic topics. In the past, we didn't have a term to describe this. Adding this as a subject heading allows for this to act as a search term, so folks can discover materials, authors, and genres that more closely align with the words they might use to describe themselves or a group of people. Same thing for non-binary. Right now, non-binary does not exist in the Library of Congress subject terms. Instead, they're called gender nonconformity or gender nonconforming people. Gender nonconformity depicts a bias that believes that the adherence to gender stereotypes is a binary system. Non-binary is the term used by most CCS library patrons. So for example, in the Homosaurus, you'll see non-binary people assigned female or assigned male. And the idea is we want to use terms that more closely capture the way people are searching within the catalog, and also terms people might use to describe themselves that haven't necessarily been captured in subject headings provided by the Library of Congress. Okay, so some terms to highlight. These are terms that you're more likely to see inside of a MARC record. They're also terms that we've seen patrons search and that aren't reflected as subject headings. So adding them to a record helps to make material more discoverable for the patrons who might be looking for it. So as an example, how do CCS patrons search? So we did an analysis of search terms from 2018 to 2021. And terms like aromantic, demisexual, gender nonconforming people, non-binary, polyamory, and non-monogamous appeared more than we might think as subject searches. And the idea is that if these terms aren't available as subject headings, patrons can't find the materials that they describe. So what our catalogers will be doing is supplementing the terms provided by the Library of Congress with those we might find in the Homosaurus. And they'll be doing that on a title by title basis. So when a title comes in that we identify might benefit from being labeled as non-binary in its subject heading, or demisexual as part of its subject heading, we're basically adding supplemental terms that allow patrons to discover materials that they might not find otherwise were those terms not there. Okay, so how does this affect you as public service professionals? So adding new terms or correcting existing terms increases access points for patrons. So as I mentioned a moment ago, adding additional search terms allows things to become more discoverable because we're not using one word to describe something. We might be using terms that are more up to date and actually reflect the way our patrons search. Examples of how this will work. So as I mentioned a moment ago, CCS will work with cataloging staff to incorporate the additional terms. And right now that's done by a cataloger or technical services staff member submitting a ticket. So some of the tickets that we've seen, I'm going to just sort of walk through those below so you get an idea of the types of things we might see. So in the 375 field on Sam Smith's authority record, for example, it labels him as male, but Sam Smith identifies as non-binary. So we added non-binary to his authority record. In the 650 field for subject headings and in the 655 field for genre headings, we can add additional genre headings and subject headings to better describe works so they become more discoverable for patrons. The specific term I mentioned a moment ago, non-binary people, is a subject heading. I'll give you an example of what that might look like in the catalog. I've also linked it here with the deck that I'll share so you can see a live example on your own. But this would be an example where beyond the gender binary, were we to click on the MARC record for this, in that 650 subject field, you'll see that non-binary people has been added. In the past, it would only say gender nonconforming or gender nonconforming people. So this cataloger has added non-binary people and then cited it as coming from the Homosaurus. So as these types of records are added to the catalog, you might see that the 650 field is expanding to better capture vocabulary that is used by patrons to search for these materials. Okay, I did see a couple of questions come in about this in the chat, so let me go ahead and open those up here. Okay. Will you be sharing the deck? Yes, mentioned that. Very positive change. I'm glad to see we're moving forward with these cataloging changes and corrections. And then just Jason asking for people's names. Okay, I wasn't sure if we had any questions there. Okay, that said, are there any questions about this change to add Homosaurus to provide additional search terms for patrons in the catalog? Okay, I don't see any coming in. I think overwhelmingly this is a very positive thing. We're using more inclusive language to describe the materials within our catalog. I see Meg saying, I think it's a great change. Thanks to all the work involved. Yeah, Scrap definitely did an excellent job making a huge change. Okay. So with that, I'd also like to just call attention to our DEI Lister because it kind of works hand in hand with some of the new subject headings. So DEI, I'm sure that we've seen this term thrown around a lot in library land and in the larger cultural exchange of ideas. But diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's that acronym there for this listserv. So a lot of libraries are taking part in DEI audits of their collections, just meaning that they're looking to ensure that their collections are representative of a diverse group of people and a diverse group of ideas, so that they're providing equitable service to their patrons. So we're seeing these types of audits show up more and more. So CCS does have a DEI listserv that you can join. If you are interested in doing that, you can email us at help@ccslib.org. We'll add you to that listserv. But the listserv is meant to be a space where library staff can have discussions about diversity audits happening within their own library. Or if you were looking for a speaker on DEI, or you had a DEI question on how you serve your patrons or on programming within your community, this is meant to be a space where you can ask those questions. Within this DEI listserv, I also want to mention that CCS is working on constructing what we call a diversity audit dashboard using subject headings. So we'll use subject headings for the materials in the catalog in order to provide like a representative sample of, for example, how many books are written by authors of color? Do you have enough titles within a teen section to really represent LGBTQ people within your community? So that workspace is something that's in progress, but questions about it and similar initiatives at CCS libraries can be exchanged on the DEI listserv. And again, you can email us at help@ccslib.org if that's something you're interested in joining. Okay. Great, so as I mentioned, pretty brief meeting. We sort of sailed through all that. It's all very positive. We now have open discussion. So are there any burning questions, topics, or things that you'd like to discuss now that we've got all of PAS here?
This is Liz at Huntley. Sorry, my video doesn't want to turn on here.
It's okay, I can hear you just fine.
You can hear me okay. I just wanted to mention with our construction project, we're halfway through our project, but we'll have a couple more closures that we're expecting. One closure would be end of September for parking lot work. And then probably in December, we'll be closed a couple weeks because we will need to move everything into the space that's being remodeled. So we'll keep CCS informed of that, and we hope to be all done in January then. So we're getting very excited about getting to the end of the project.
Are things going pretty smoothly for now?
They have been going very smoothly. So we moved into our addition end of April, and the children's area is just beautiful. I know Anne's on the Zoom with me, and I keep saying I want to transfer to the children's department. It's such a nice space.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, I think the sheer amount of drive-through book drops that have been added in construction during this time is pretty amazing. I'm very excited to do like a tour of libraries once everyone is back open and operating normally in like 2022, because everyone's buildings have just become even more beautiful, and so many services have been added that I don't think we could have ever anticipated otherwise. So, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is Meg from Prospect Heights. We had our grand reopening of our building after being closed since last September, June 5th. So definitely sending some good construction vibes towards those who are still under their projects. It's definitely worth it. It's just, frustrating in the meantime when you can't get to all your building assets and stuff. But yeah, we reopened and it was great. We saw I think it was 900 people came. So exciting stuff over at Prospect Heights. So good vibes to those who are in the process of that.
Okay. Well, that's super exciting. Yeah, Wilmette.
Yeah, so Wilmette's going to be we're going to be closed the second half of August while we get a new electrical main attached to the building. So and we've been doing a lot of exterior work to the building, but yeah, so that'll be a little bit of a pause in service, but we just returned to we're about to go to our regular operating hours in July the 5th. So it'll be the slow march to normal, I guess.
And Crystal Lake will be tentatively reopening on Monday, pending an inspection from the city, whether or not we can have people in the building again. So hopefully all that goes well and we can finally get back to our normal too.
Yeah, people are very excited to start getting materials from Crystal Lake too. We've had a lot.
I'm sure you guys are excited to be sending us the materials that our patrons have been returning to you this whole time.
This is Pam from McHenry. I think our statistics are going to drop when you reopen. So I'm glad that your opening is coming soon. I mean,
hopefully,
I'm happy for you. I'm not trying to get rid of your patrons.
Oh no, that's fine. I understand. They've been at your library and Algonquin and Cary, I'm sure, a whole bunch.
Well, they'll appreciate your new building or your new
I hope so.
facilities. Yeah.
All right, so we can go ahead and call the meeting. Becky, did you want to go ahead and do that?
So we just need a motion to adjourn.
Pam from McHenry, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Liz from Huntley, I second.
Thanks very much. So have a good rest of the day, everybody.
All right, take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Hi, thank
you.
you.
Bye, thank you.